Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video we have some Retribution Paladin talk once again. Probably the first video I did since the big nerfs, and I hadn't played much because they also changed the set bonus to from the consecration to just flat damage, and I didn't feel like there was really any point of testing anything with that wrong set bonus. So they got the updated beta build in, and unfortunately, there's no Mythic Plus to do right now. They took that out, the little bit of testing they allowed for that. And they did redesign the Thundering affix as well. So I'm just in a heroic here. Now, luckily, even though stuff dies way too fast, I do have a lot of heroic dungeons run. And so I do have like so much to compare it to as far as like feel, which is probably the most important thing right now. As you're going to see, if you can see the damage meter down here, I'm still doing a ton of damage. I'm still going to end up doing the most damage. Pretty much. The Shadow Priest in the group has even more of has the full on highest item level possible. And, I'm out DPSing them. That doesn't mean they're good at the game or anything, though. No offense to them if they are. I don't know who they are or whatever. But obviously, I'm still doing a lot of damage. I think I did 50k overall. I don't know. It'll be up at the end of the video. But a good amount of damage for the overall of the dungeon. And it's just a heroic, obviously. So obviously there is a nerf, though. I was doing 70 plus K overall for something like this. So obviously it's a huge nerf, but it just brings us back a little bit more to the pack. And I'm not that worried about that nerf, about the actual just flat damage nerfs. Obviously what I'm worried about is more of the playstyle and how it feels. So with all these nerfs, with the Holy Power nerfs, and more specifically the Art of War nerf, there were some things that I could take away as far as gameplay and how it felt to play this way. So one, it is in some ways it is nice when you are trying new things. In this case, I was trying out exorcism again because I saw it in the patch notes, but it does not appear to have anything changed. Exorcism, as of right this second of me making this video, is still worthless. Whatever changes they're going to do to that is not relevant yet. So that kind of stinks. But yeah, so I was playing with that a little bit, so I had something to focus on, but I didn't have to track my consecration thing to use and stuff like that. But like I said, that's actually not a bad thing either, to have something to track. So I think it's kind of one of those where you can make an argument for it or you can make an argument against it. It just depends on what argument you want to make. And in this case, I didn't really seem to mind it that much of just having the flat damage to do, because every 2 minutes I do get to pop off in a AoE build using Final Reckoning and Divine Toll. Every 1 minute you get to pop off a little bit as well, so that always feels a little bit good too. So as I said, most of the damage stuff felt very similar. The damage is very similar, it's just a little bit lower because of the damage nerfs. And as I've been saying, and I'm just going to stand behind this now, and probably as I continue testing this, as they make Mythic Plus available again, the next raid that I test and stuff like that, the biggest thing is just the feel is different, right? If you enjoyed Shadowlands Season 3 and Season 4, it was because of the set bonus, right? The Art of War procking into your Blade or your Ashes, Wake of Ashes. And they already nerfed Wake of Ashes proc chance or whatever for Dragonflight just by the talent alone. But then when they nerfed Art of War procs, this thing is not procking very often. I still think it's probably worth taking in dungeons, just because anytime it does proc, it's just it's just one talent point. It's just a huge amount of damage anytime it does proc. So it's probably still worth taking for a dungeon setting, I would imagine. But it just procs hardly ever, and so it takes away that fun element of it quite a bit. And I just think that there's got to be some other tuning way that you could nerf Rat. You could nerf some other ability in some way. Maybe nerf the builders. Right now, our builders, our judgment and stuff are doing a ton of damage. Maybe you could nerf them slightly. I don't know exactly what the answer is there, but it does not feel good. It does not feel like Shadowlands 3 and 4. A lot of people are saying, this is just a nerfed version of 3 and 4, and it kind of is, but at the same time it isn't, because you're not really relying on those procs at all. You have less Seraphim in general. It's just kind of that is, I guess it isn't. It's not a nerfed version of it. It's a neutered version of it, but it's neutered so much that it is kind of its own thing. This feels like a very generic play style, right? This is literally you do the same thing every time. So you go into a poll, use your use your Final Reckoning. Go ahead, Divine Storm, Divine Toll, Divine Storm, Wake of Ashes, Divine Storm. Maybe throw a Consecrate down at that point into an Exorcism if they ever fix Exorcism to do more damage, and then just keep building, keep Divine Storming. And it's very, very... and you almost never get an Art of War proc. Every once in a while you do, and that gives you extra Consecration if it's Blade of Justice, and a lot of extra damage if it is your Wake and you have that ability or that talent taken. But it's extremely just boring right now. Now, at the end of the day, I don't think people are going to care if it's just boring as long as the damage is high. So if we're still one of the higher damages in a dungeon, I think dungeon players will be pretty happy overall. You're not like bored or anything. You're not like waiting for buttons to press, I would say, especially during your 1 minute window with Reckoning and Divine Toll, and then during your obviously with your 2 minute window with your either your Might or your Crusade. You're not waiting at all then. You have tons of buttons to press. On a long Mythic Plus pull, like a big Mythic Plus 20 pull, I think that could change a little bit. And towards the end of the pull, you start to feel a little bit lacking of buttons to press because you're not getting any procs. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing since we haven't had a chance to like test like real content. It raids a little bit for sure, but when you don't have these procs at all, I think it really dulls down pretty much 30 seconds out of almost 50% of the time, maybe not even that much, but like maybe 25% of the time you're kind of like really boring. You're kind of really boring about 25% of the time. Let's just say about 15 seconds every minute. It's just extremely boring. And then when that minute comes up again, you get that dopamine rush of pressing, some big damage stuff again. And it's just really, really boring between there. And what happened, in my opinion, with the set bonus, with the Art of War procs, not only were you getting Seraphim, which is a ton of damage, but then you're just getting to press Wake of Ashes, and you're getting more Blades of Justice, whatever. And that's how it felt when Dragonflight Beta, when I first got on Dragonflight Beta, it felt like Shadowlands Season 3, plus with a bunch of other stuff. And it felt like Season 3 plus. Now, like I said, it feels like a neutered Season 3. You still have the plus part of it, and that's why, in my opinion, it is like its own thing. It's like its own thing with a neutered version of Shadowlands Season 3. And for me, that's not great because I really enjoyed the set bonus in Shadowlands Season 3. As you see on that council boss, I did over 100k DPS, which is pretty standard. Since they live a little bit longer, Crusade was actually useful for the boss fight there. Instead of having Might. Normally, like I said, in a Heroic Dungeon, the Might would be a lot more useful. So we're still pumping damage, and that's not the issue. And that's why I told people not to worry so much about just the straight damage nerfs. But if you like Shadowlands Season 3 and 4, for me, that really brought me back to like enjoying playing Ret like I did in Legion. And if you too were having fun with that, then like what we gotta like push for is like we want that identity of these Art of War procs. They're actually kind of fun. It's fun to get Wake of Ashes and change up a rotation slightly because we have 3 Holy Power to spend, or you get the Blade proc and we have 2 Holy Power to spend, and it's going to give us a Consecration too, and we can play around that. Like it's kind of cool to have these procs in, because other than that we don't really have a proc or anything, right? You think of every other class, you have these procs, your buttons light up or whatever. And we don't really have that other than maybe like Hammer of Wrath. If you have Final Verdict, right, you can cast Hammer of Wrath on a proc. There's not really much else to proc. Imperium Power is a proc, technically, but we're not using Crusader Strike that much, so it's not a huge proc thing, but it does happen. And it feels so much better with these Art of War procs. And maybe they thought it was too much. Maybe they just were too heavy-handed, and maybe they'll meet somewhere in the middle, right? Maybe that'll end up being the case, and we get a few more procs, and maybe but not as many as we had before. I think that could be fine, but right now it's just far too few, and it's just not as fun. That's kind of my issue right now, is that it's just not fun to play Ret. You could take now. There's other issues as well. There's the same issue of they remove spell warding, therefore we're not as useful in a raid environment as we were going to be before. Having the choice between spell warding and BOP drastically increases the number of like raid fights where we have like an extra immunity for somebody or ourselves. So like not having spell warding is still a huge thing. and I think that should still be fought for by Ret, because I think Ret could win that. I don't think they're going to give it to Holy, but Ret, man, I think Ret could maybe get it. I don't know. I would love to see them get it, because no one's ever going to really stack Rets for spell warding, so I don't think they have to worry about that. But I say nobody would, but maybe the very top guilds would. But they said they weren't going to balance around top guilds, nor do I think they should. So I don't know. I don't know about that. So let's go ahead and get towards the end of this video here. Our healer left at one point, which slowed us down a lot, which also kind of slowed my damage down too, to be fair, as far as that goes. So for that boss fight, I did quite a bit. Okay, so I did about 60, almost 60k DPS, so a little bit more than I thought. Let's go into Dragonflight beta and just kind of look at the talents real quick. So nothing huge changing here. Sanctified Wrath is still not working with Crusade. I have Crusade off right now. But Sanctified Wrath is still not working with Crusade, so that would have been more damage as well that I was not getting in there. So it's like, it's not quite as big of a nerf as what I alluded to. It's obviously a huge nerf damage-wise, but not as big as I maybe first thought, because I forgot about the Sanctified Wrath thing as well. Exorcism also was doing nothing, so that's a wasted talent point. Pretty much anything would have been a better talent point to put in there in that case, because it's not doing anything right now. That needs to be tuned. I will say, perhaps during those longer Mythic Plus polls that I was talking about, when we have that 15 seconds of boredom, maybe like the Consecration with Exorcism, maybe that's something that feels a little bit better, because you're not worried about pressing that too much when you're just getting out all of your main abilities, because you want to use all your main abilities to get them back on cooldown so they're up again, right? You're not sitting on your Divine Toll, you're not sitting on your Final Reckoning. If you have to choose between what to sit on, you're sitting on your Exorcism, right? Like, you're not going to sit on those 1 minute cooldowns, so you'll have to use that afterwards. And so maybe that kind of fits in with that boring time or whatever, where you're getting these Exorcism hits and stuff. That fits in there. So maybe that ends up being the case if they ever tune it correctly. So that's a thing. But yeah, that was a wasted talent point. Pretty much anything else would have been better there. But generally speaking, this is kind of like an AoE build, a single target build. I still think it's probably going to be Vanguard's momentum. Obviously, every time they nerf Zealot's Paragon, Vanguard's momentum gets worse as well. I don't want to play Execution Sentence. Right now, it's still really, really crappy. We'll see. Again, that's just kind of their tuning. I guess I didn't test it today, so maybe they fixed it in today's update. It still wasn't critting the last time I tested it, but it doesn't feel good to play. Without Ringing Clarity, you don't have that instant, that instant burst of holy power that you had before without Ringing Clarity, and so for single target, it's just not that good. It would almost, if they make Executioner's Wrath good, it would almost make more sense to play Executioner's Wrath than Execution Sentence or Executioner's Will or whatever. Just because, at least in AoE, when your Divine Toll hits everything, you get those holy power and can fill up your bar. But without Ringing Clarity, it just kind of feels dead. It kind of feels awful to play too. The only way it feels good, and you could try this out. I did a Ret 3-minute build when they still had Crusade at 3 minutes. But if you come over here and take Holy Avenger and then use Execution Sentence, it feels okay. But that's the only way that it feels okay, is with this Holy Avenger, which as of now you can't really take, because 3 minutes just doesn't line up with anything, and it feels terrible. You either have to sit on your Holy Avenger for a minute, or you have to sit on your wings for a minute, and neither of those are a good option. So that's just, of course, why it's terrible. So the biggest thing, though, like I said, guys, if you want to make this spec better right now, there's lots of things you complain about: spell warding, Divine Steed, and give us more Art of War procs. And I promise it'll be a lot more fun than even at the end of Shadowlands. Like, if Divine Steed is just better, or we just get like infinite Divine Steed, whatever, like just make it better, man. It's just terrible the way it is now. Everybody knows that. I could harp on that. Make Divine Steed better in some way. I know you're not going to replace it at this point. Make it better. Give Ret spell warding back. Specifically Ret. I don't care about Holy. I'm sorry, Holy people. Give us spell warding back. And then, give us more Art of War procs. Make Ashes to Dust not worthless for single target completely. I still think, like I said, maybe it's worth it to take it just because it's another talent point. And you're, like I said, I already had a wasted talent point in Exorcism. So there's not like anything huge you need to take there. And then, make the Art of War better, right? That also buffs Ashes to Ashes, of course, by making Art of War better. And so give us some of those procs back. Meet us in the middle maybe, because maybe it was too many procs. I would be fine with saying that. Like, it was a lot of procs, I'm not going to lie. It just felt really good. But it also makes this really, really powerful and maybe too powerful if you have infinite procs of really strong abilities and like infinite Seraphim, right? So maybe it is too many procs. But can you balance it back a little bit there on Art of War? Give us spell warding, give us a better Divine Seed option. A better Divine Seed talent, whatever, and Ret will be fun. Now, and it also will be a little bit more viable because it'll have spell warding, right? It'll be a little bit more useful, a little bit more utility. So you have utility, you have movement, you have fun. Utility, movement, fun. These are the three things. These are going to be the three pillars now I'm going to talk about until Dragonflight releases. Utility, spell warding, movement, Divine Steed, fun, Art of War procs. If they can fix these three things, it'll be more fun than it is right now to play, just because you're more useful, you have more mobility, and you're having more fun playing because you have the Shadowland Season 3 and 4 plus new stuff. So that's where I'm at, guys. Can't wait to get into Mythic Plus and test it. I promise I will be doing a lot of that as soon as it's like a more of a available thing. Obviously, they did the limited testing, but like I said, we still had the Consecration set bonus, which was completely worthless to test because we already knew they were getting rid of it. So as soon as they have Mythic Plus back up, I will be in there as much as I can. I doubt I can do it as much as Heroic Dungeons because I can't just queue for it, I don't think. I'll have to actually like find a group and stuff. But I will be in there as much as I can, and I will give results, and hopefully they tune Exorcism because I think we're going to need it for Mythic Plus on longer polls. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.